Be Hungry for Success by AudioWave Books. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone just like you is making a decision. They're choosing between staying comfortable or getting uncomfortable enough to actually win. Here's what nobody tells you about success. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. And it definitely doesn't knock on your door twice. The people who get what they want, they're not smarter than you. They're not luckier than you. They're just hungrier than you. And that hunger, that desperate, gnawing feeling that keeps you up at night thinking, there has to be more than this. That's not your problem. That's your power. In this audiobook, I'm going to show you exactly how to stop letting life happen to you and start making it happen for you. Because here's the truth. Your comfort zone isn't protecting you. It's suffocating you. And every day you stay, there is another day someone else is taking what could have been yours. But not today. Today we change everything. Introduction. Look, I get it. You've probably watched 100 videos promising to change your life. You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, maybe even bought the courses. And you're still here, still searching, still feeling like something's missing. That's because most people are teaching you what to do, but nobody's teaching you how to stay hungry enough to actually do it. See, I've spent years studying the difference between people who dream and people who achieve. And it's not what you think. It's not about having more discipline. It's not about being more talented. It's about understanding something most people never figure out. The secret is in your hunger. Not just wanting something, but needing it so badly that giving up isn't even an option anymore. Over the next 50 minutes, we're going to dive deep into this. I'm going to show you the 7 levels of hunger, and more importantly, how to reach the level where success becomes inevitable. We'll talk about why your brain fights you every step of the way, and how to make it work for you instead of against you. You'll discover what successful people do when they hit rock bottom that everyone else misses. And by the end, you're going to understand why some people seem to attract opportunities while others wait their whole lives for a break that never comes. This isn't another feel-good session that leaves you pumped for a week and forgotten by next month. This is about rewiring how you think about success, how you approach challenges, and how you see yourself. So, get comfortable, because we're about to go places most people are too scared to visit. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of Hunger. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Most people think they want success. They really do. They'll talk about it at parties, post about it on social media, maybe even make vision boards. But wanting something and needing it, those are two completely different animals. See, real hunger isn't just about goals or dreams. It's about survival. It's that feeling in your gut that says, I can't live like this anymore. It's when staying where you are becomes more painful than the risk of failing while trying to get somewhere better. Most people never reach this point. They get comfortable with uncomfortable. They settle for good enough because it's easier than fighting for extraordinary. But here's what I've discovered after studying thousands of success stories. There's actually a spectrum of hunger, and where you fall on the spectrum determines everything about your future. Let me break it down for you. At the bottom, you've got the satisfied. These are the comfort zone dwellers. They're not unhappy, but they're not really alive either. They wake up, go through the motions, and convince themselves that content is the goal. They'll say things like, I'm grateful for what I have, while secretly wondering, what if? The problem with being satisfied? Life has a funny way of shaking you out of it. Layoffs happen. Relationships end. Health scares come out of nowhere. And suddenly, that comfortable little bubble doesn't feel so safe anymore. Next up, you've got the curious. These are the window shoppers of success. They'll watch every motivational video, read every success story, follow every entrepreneur on Instagram. They consume content about success like it's entertainment. But consumption isn't creation. Watching other people succeed doesn't make you successful any more than watching cooking shows makes you a chef. Then there's the motivated. I call these the weekend warriors. They get fired up, start projects, join gyms, sign up for courses. They'll go hard for a week, maybe a month. But the moment things get difficult, the moment the initial excitement wears off, they fade away. Motivation is like a sugar rush. It feels great while it lasts, but it always crashes. And when it does, you're left exactly where you started. The 4th level is driven. These people are consistent performers. They show up every day. They follow through on commitments. They make steady progress. They're reliable, dependable, successful by most standards. But here's the thing about driven people. They're running someone else's race. They're following the blueprint, checking the boxes, doing what they're supposed to do. They'll have nice careers, nice houses, nice lives. But they'll always wonder what could have been if they'd taken more risks. Level 5 is where things get interesting. These are the obsessed, the relentless pursuers. They think about their goals when they wake up and when they go to sleep. They make sacrifices others won't make. They work while others watch Netflix. Obsessed people achieve things. They break through barriers that stop most people. But obsession without strategy can burn you out. It can cost your relationships, your health, your peace of mind. The 6th level is hungry. These are the success magnets. They've figured out how to channel their obsession intelligently. They're not just working hard, they're working smart. They understand that success isn't just about effort, it's about direction. Hungry people attract opportunities. They see connections others miss. They take calculated risks that pay off. They understand that success is as much about who you become as what you achieve. But there's one level above hungry that most people never talk about. Starving. The starving are unstoppable forces. They've moved beyond personal success. They're driven by something bigger than themselves. They understand that the highest level of hunger isn't about getting something for yourself. It's about giving something to the world. When you reach this level, failure isn't even a consideration anymore. Not because you can't fail, but because the mission is bigger than your fear. You're not trying to prove something. You're trying to contribute something. Now here's the brutal truth. Most people start at satisfied and never leave. They might visit curious or motivated for a while, but they always drift back to comfortable. Why? Because our brains are wired for survival, not success. Your brain's job is to keep you alive, not help you thrive. It's constantly scanning for threats, trying to conserve energy, pushing you toward the familiar and safe. This is why most people lose their hunger. Not because they don't want more, but because wanting more feels dangerous to their primitive brain. So it creates stories. You're not smart enough. You don't have the right connections. You're too old, too young, too something. But here's what your brain doesn't understand. In today's world, playing it safe is the riskiest thing you can do. The comfortable job might disappear tomorrow. The steady paycheck might not be steady. The secure path might lead to a dead end. The only real security comes from developing an unstoppable hunger for growth, for contribution, for becoming more than you are right now. So where are you on this spectrum? Be honest. Don't tell me where you want to be or where you think you should be. Where are you actually living right now? Because here's the thing. You can't jump from satisfied to starving overnight. But you can move up one level, and then another, and another. The question is, are you ready to stop settling for where you are and start fighting for where you want to be? Because if you are, if you're tired of wondering, what if, and ready to start discovering what is, then you need to understand what's been holding you back. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. Chapter 2, The Success Killers. Now that you know where you stand on the hunger spectrum, we need to talk about what's been sabotaging you. Because here's the thing, your hunger didn't just disappear on its own. Something killed it. And chances are, it's still happening right now without you even realizing it. Let's start with the most deadly one, the satisfaction trap. This one's sneaky because it feels good. It feels like progress. You set a goal, you work toward it, you achieve it. Maybe you get that promotion, lose those first 10 pounds, or finally clean out your garage. And what happens? You celebrate. You feel accomplished. You tell yourself you've earned a break. But here's what nobody warns you about. That celebration can become your coffin. See, your brain doesn't distinguish between big wins and small wins. To your brain, any achievement triggers the same reward system. You get that hit of dopamine, that feeling of satisfaction, and suddenly the fire that was driving you starts to flicker. You start thinking thoughts like, I've made good progress, or I deserve to enjoy this for a while, or I'll get back to it next week. And next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. And before you know it, that small win has become the ceiling of your potential instead of the floor. This is why so many people plateau. They achieve just enough to feel good about themselves, but not enough to actually change their lives. They mistake progress for arrival. The most dangerous phrase in the English language? Good enough. When you start accepting good enough, you stop reaching for extraordinary. When you stop reaching for extraordinary, you start dying. Not physically, but the part of you that dreams, that hopes, that believes in something bigger. That part starts shutting down. And once it shuts down, getting it back online becomes 10 times harder. The second killer is even more insidious because it's built into your biology. Your comfort zone isn't just a place you go. It's a sophisticated defense system designed to keep you exactly where you are. Think about it. Every time you try to do something new, something challenging, something that could actually change your life, what happens? Your palms get sweaty. Your heart starts racing. Your mind floods with reasons why it won't work. That's not weakness. That's your ancient survival system kicking in. For thousands of years, stepping outside the familiar meant possible death. So your brain evolved to treat any change, any risk, any growth as a threat to your survival. When you try to start that business, your brain screams, dangerous. You could fail. When you try to approach that person, your brain yells, rejection, humiliation. When you try to speak up in that meeting, your brain shouts, they'll think you're stupid. Your brain isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to protect you. But protection and growth are opposites. You can't have both. You have to choose. Most people choose protection. They choose the familiar discomfort over the unfamiliar possibility. They choose the known limitation over the unknown potential. And that choice, repeated day after day, year after year, becomes the prison they call their life. But here's what your brain doesn't understand. In today's world, the biggest risk isn't trying and failing. The biggest risk is not trying at all. The biggest risk is staying exactly where you are while the world changes around you. The third killer might be the most dangerous of all because it's everywhere. It's in your pocket right now. It's comparison. Every day, you're bombarded with images of other people's highlight reels. The perfect vacation photos, the business success posts, the workout selfies, the relationship announcements. And your brain, which is wired to compare for survival, can't help but measure your behind the scenes against their highlight reel. You see someone your age who just bought their third rental property, and suddenly your steady job feels small. You see someone who lost 50 pounds, and suddenly your 10-pound loss feels insignificant. You see someone who built $1 million business in 2 years, and suddenly your progress feels pathetic. But here's what you're not seeing: the years of failure before the success, the mountains of debt before the profit, the depression, the anxiety, the relationships that fell apart, the nights they couldn't sleep. Social media shows you the trophy, not the training, the victory, not the defeats, the celebration, not the struggle. And when you compare your full reality to their filter highlights, you lose. Every single time. Comparison doesn't just steal your joy, it steals your hunger. Because why keep fighting when everyone else seems to have it figured out? Why keep struggling when everyone else makes it look so easy? The truth is, everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about. Everyone is struggling with something. Everyone has moments of doubt, fear, and frustration. But comparison culture doesn't show you that. It shows you perfection. And perfection is the enemy of progress. When you're constantly looking at where other people are, you stop focusing on where you're going. When you stop focusing on where you're going, you stop moving toward it. Your path is yours alone. Your timeline is yours alone. Your definition of success should be yours alone. But as long as you're measuring your chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 20, you'll never appreciate the story you're writing. Here's the brutal reality. These 3 killers work together. Satisfaction makes you comfortable. Comfort makes you risk-averse. And comparison makes you feel like you're behind. The combination is lethal to hunger. It creates a perfect storm of mediocrity where you're too satisfied to push harder, too comfortable to take risks, and too focused on others to build your own path. Most people spend their entire lives caught in this cycle. They achieve a little, get comfortable, compare themselves to others, feel inadequate, achieve a little more, get comfortable again. Round and round they go, never breaking free, never reaching their potential, never discovering what they're truly capable of. But you're different. You're here. You're listening. You're learning. And now that you know what's been killing your hunger, you can start fighting back. Because understanding the problem is just the beginning. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Chapter 3, Igniting Your Inner Fire. All right, you've seen what's been working against you. Now it's time to start working for yourself. It's time to light that fire and turn it into an inferno. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think motivation comes from outside. They think someone else is going to give them the spark they need. They wait for the perfect moment, the right opportunity, the ideal circumstances. That's not how fire works. Fire starts from within. And the biggest fires? They start with the smallest spark in the driest conditions. Your driest condition is your dissatisfaction. Your spark is your why. And your why isn't what you think it is. Most people think their why is what they want. I want financial freedom. I want to lose weight. I want a better relationship. But wanting something is surface level. It's not deep enough to sustain you when things get tough. Real why goes deeper. It's not about what you want. It's about what you can't live without. It's not about what would be nice to have. It's about what you absolutely must have. Here's the difference. You want to make more money, but you need to never feel powerless again. You want to get in shape, but you need to feel confident in your own skin. You want success, but you need to prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you've settled for. The want is about getting something. The need is about becoming someone. And here's the thing about deep needs. They're usually born for pain. From that moment when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize yourself. From that conversation when someone dismissed your dreams. From that night when you realized you were living someone else's idea of your life. That pain isn't your enemy. That pain is your fuel. Most people try to avoid pain, but successful people learn to use it. They understand that dissatisfaction isn't a problem to solve. It's energy to channel. Think about it. When are you most motivated? When everything's going perfectly, or when you're fed up with where you are? When you're comfortable, you have no reason to change. When you're uncomfortable, you have every reason to grow. The secret is learning to sit with that discomfort instead of numbing it, instead of distracting yourself from it, instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Feel it. Let it build. Let it remind you every single day why staying where you are is not an option. But pain alone isn't enough. You need to balance it with pleasure. You need to create a vision so compelling that it pulls you forward, even when the pain tries to hold you back. This is where most goal setting fails. People create wimpy goals that don't excite them. They set targets that are realistic and achievable and completely boring. Your vision needs to be unrealistic. It needs to be so big that it scares you and excites you at the same time. It needs to be the kind of future that makes you jump out of bed in the morning. But here's the key. It can't just be a fantasy. It has to feel real. You have to be able to see it, smell it, taste it. Close your eyes right now and imagine your life 5 years from now if you actually followed through on your hunger. What does your day look like? Where do you live? How do you feel when you wake up? What kind of problems are you solving? What kind of impact are you making? Don't just think about it. Feel it. Make it so real that going back to your current life feels impossible. Now open your eyes and look around. Feel the gap between where you are and where you could be. That gap is your fuel. That tension is your power. But vision without deadline is just a dream. You need urgency. You need pressure. You need to create a situation where not achieving your goals is more painful than achieving them. Here's what I mean. Right now, you probably think you have time. You think you can start tomorrow, next week, next month. You think there's always later. But what if there wasn't? What if you only had 1 year to completely change your life? What if you only had 6 months? What would you do differently? Successful people don't wait for external deadlines. They create their own. They manufacture urgency because they understand that without pressure, coal never becomes diamond. Set a deadline that scares you. Set a timeline that seems impossible. Then work backward and figure out what you'd have to do every single day to make it happen. But here's where it gets really interesting. All of this external stuff, the why, the vision, the deadlines, they're just tools to change one thing: your identity. See, you don't get what you want in life. You get who you are. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, you'll find ways to struggle with money. If you see yourself as someone who gives up when things get hard, you'll give up when things get hard. But if you see yourself as someone who figures things out, you'll figure things out. If you see yourself as someone who doesn't quit, you won't quit. The question is, who are you? Not who you've been, not who others think you are. Who are you becoming? Most people set goals based on what they think they can achieve. But what if you set goals based on who you want to become? What if you asked yourself, what would someone who has already achieved this do today? That person exists. They exist in your future. And every day, you get to choose. Are you moving toward that person or away from them? This is where your internal voice becomes critical. Because you're having a conversation with yourself all day long. And that conversation is either building you up or tearing you down. Listen to how you talk to yourself. When you make a mistake, what do you say? When you face a challenge, what's your first thought? When you look in the mirror, what's the voice in your head telling you? If that voice is holding you back, it's time to change the conversation. Start talking to yourself like someone who believes in your potential. Start asking yourself questions that assume success instead of failure. Instead of, what if this doesn't work? Ask, how can I make this work? Instead of, I'm not good at this, say, I'm learning to get better at this. Your inner voice becomes your reality. Your thoughts become your actions. Your actions become your results. But here's the thing. Changing your identity isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming who you really are underneath all the fear and doubt and limiting beliefs. Deep down, you know you're capable of more. Deep down, you know you have something valuable to offer. Deep down, you know you're meant for something bigger than what you've settled for. That knowing? That's not delusion. That's not wishful thinking. That's your true self trying to break through. The fire was always there. It's just been buried under years of playing small, staying safe, and listening to voices that told you to be realistic. But realistic is just another word for settling. And you didn't come this far to only come this far. Your fire is lit. Your why is clear. Your vision is compelling. Your deadline is set. Your identity is shifting. Now comes the hard part. Keeping it burning when the world tries to put it out. Chapter 4. Feeding your hunger daily. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Motivation is like showering. It feels great when you do it, but you need to do it again tomorrow. That fire you just lit, it's going to try to die. Every single day. And if you don't feed it consistently, it will. Most people think success is about having one breakthrough moment, one big decision, one life-changing event. But that's Hollywood thinking. Real success is built in the boring moments, in the daily choices nobody sees. It's what you do at 6 a.m. when you don't feel like getting up. It's what you do at 10 p.m. when everyone else is watching Netflix. It's what you do on Tuesday afternoon when nothing exciting is happening. Success isn't an event. It's a habit. And habits don't happen by accident. They happen by design. The most successful people in the world have one thing in common. They've designed their days to feed their hunger instead of starve it. It starts the moment you wake up. And I mean the exact moment. Before you check your phone. Before you scroll through social media. Before you fill your mind with other people's problems and priorities. The first 30 minutes of your day determine the next 16 hours. And most people waste them. They wake up reactive. They immediately start consuming news, emails, texts, notifications. They let the world dictate their mood, their energy, their focus. But what if you flipped it? What if you started each day by feeding your hunger instead of feeding your fears? Here's what that looks like. You wake up, and before you do anything else, you remind yourself who you're becoming. Not who you were yesterday, not who you've been, who you're becoming. You spend 5 minutes visualizing your future self, not as a fantasy, as a fact, as someone who already exists, and you're just catching up to them. See yourself handling challenges with confidence. See yourself making decisions from abundance instead of scarcity. See yourself living the life you're building. But here's the key. Don't just see it. Feel it. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a vivid imagination and actual experience. So make it vivid. What does success smell like for you? What does confidence feel like in your body? What does financial freedom sound like when you're no longer worried about money? The more real you make it, the more your brain starts to believe it's possible. And what your brain believes, your actions follow. Then you reinforce it with words. But not the fluffy affirmations that make you feel like you're lying to yourself. Words that connect to who you're becoming. Instead of I am successful, when you're broke, try I am someone who finds solutions. Instead of I am confident, when you're scared, try I am someone who acts despite fear. The difference is believability. Your brain will accept truth that feels like growth. It will reject lies that feel like fantasy. This morning ritual isn't about feeling good. It's about programming your unconscious mind to look for opportunities instead of obstacles, to seek solutions instead of problems, to act from your future self instead of your past limitations. But morning rituals alone won't sustain you. You need to build momentum throughout the day. Think about working out. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be in shape forever. You progressively add weight, increase reps, Push yourself a little further each time. Your hunger works the same way. It needs progressive overload. Every day, you need to do something that stretches you slightly beyond your comfort zone. Not so far that you break, just far enough that you grow. If you're scared of networking, send one connection request. If you're avoiding difficult conversations, have one. If you're putting off that project, work on it for 15 minutes. Small steps in the right direction beat giant leaps that lead nowhere. But here's what most people miss. They think small steps don't matter. They think incremental progress is too slow. They want transformation overnight. That's ego talking. Ego wants the glory without the grind. But sustainable success is built on consistency, not intensity. 1% better every day compounds into extraordinary results over time. But most people quit before they see the compounding effect. They work out for a week and expect to see abs. They eat healthy for a month and expect to transform their health. They work on their business for 3 months and expect to replace their income. But compound growth doesn't work that way. It's slow at first, almost invisible. Then suddenly it explodes. The question is, are you willing to stay consistent through the invisible phase? This is where your environment becomes critical. Because willpower is finite. Motivation comes and goes. But environment is always working. If you want to eat healthy, fill your kitchen with healthy food. If you want to read more, put books everywhere. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Make the right choice the easy choice. Make the wrong choice require effort. But environment isn't just about physical space. It's about the people you surround yourself with. Show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me what you consume, and I'll show you what you'll become. Are the people around you lifting you up or dragging you down? Are they challenging you to grow or enabling you to stay comfortable? Are they celebrating your wins or minimizing your dreams? You become who you spend time with, not intentionally, unconsciously, through osmosis, through constant exposure to their thoughts, their words, their habits, their standards. If you're surrounded by people who complain about their jobs, you'll complain about your job. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, you'll make excuses. If you're surrounded by people who think small, you'll think small. But if you're surrounded by people who take responsibility, who find solutions, who think big, you'll absorb those qualities too. This doesn't mean you abandon everyone who isn't successful. It means you become intentional about who gets access to your mind and your energy. Find people who are where you want to be. Find people who are on the same path you're on. Find people who believe in possibilities instead of limitations. And if you can't find them in person, find them online. Listen to their podcasts. Read their books. Follow their content. Feed your mind with the kind of thinking that feeds your hunger. Because here's what happens when you consistently feed your hunger. It grows. It becomes stronger. It becomes more resilient. The daily practices that felt forced at first become automatic. The challenges that seemed impossible become manageable. The goals that felt unrealistic become inevitable. But only if you stay consistent. Only if you treat your hunger like a living thing that needs daily nutrition. Most people starve their hunger with doubt, feed it junk with distractions, and wonder why it dies. But you're different. You understand that hunger is a skill. And like any skill, it gets stronger with practice. The question is, what happens when that hunger gets tested? What happens when obstacles show up to challenge everything you've built? Chapter 5. Hungry Through the Storm. Let me tell you something they don't teach you in business school or motivational seminars. Success isn't a straight line. It's a roller coaster that breaks down halfway through the ride. And when that happens, when everything you've built starts falling apart, when the critics come out of the woodwork, when your own mind starts whispering that maybe you should quit, that's not the end of your story. That's where your real story begins. Most people think hunger dies when things get hard. But you have to be hungry enough to look for those instructions instead of wallowing in self-pity. You have to be determined enough to decode the message instead of just feeling the pain. Now let's talk about something that kills more dreams than failure ever will. The plateau. You know what I'm talking about. That frustrating phase where you're doing everything right, but nothing seems to be working. Where your progress flatlines. Where effort doesn't equal results. You're still showing up, still doing the work. Still following the plan. But the needle isn't moving. The scale isn't budging. The bank account isn't growing. The opportunities aren't coming. This is where most people quit. They interpret the plateau as proof that they're not cut out for success. They think they've hit their ceiling. But here's what they don't understand. Plateaus aren't punishments. They're preparation. Think about a tree. You plant a seed. You water it. You give it sunlight. And for weeks, maybe months, you see nothing above ground. Does that mean it's not growing? Underground, that seed is developing the root system it will need to support the massive tree it's going to become. The stronger the roots, the taller the tree can grow. Your plateau is your root system. Your skills are deepening. Your character is strengthening. Your capacity is expanding. You just can't see it yet, but only if you keep feeding your hunger during the plateau. Only if you trust the process when the process isn't showing you results. Most people increase their effort when they see progress and decrease their effort when they don't. But that's backwards. The plateau is exactly when you need to lean in harder, not pull back. This is where discipline becomes more important than motivation. This is where systems become more important than goals. This is where character gets built. And character is what carries you through the next inevitable challenge. The doubters. Oh, the doubters. They come out of nowhere when you start pursuing something meaningful. Family members who think you're being unrealistic. Friends who think you've changed. Colleagues who think you're crazy. Why are you working so hard? Why can't you just be happy with what you have? What makes you think you're so special? Here's the truth about doubters. They're not really doubting you. They're doubting themselves. Your hunger reminds them of their own lack of hunger. Your action highlights their inaction. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Misery loves company, but so does mediocrity. The people who try to talk you out of your dreams aren't protecting you from failure. They're protecting themselves from feeling bad about their own unreached potential. But here's how you handle the doubters. You don't argue with them. You don't try to convince them. You don't waste your energy defending your dreams. You use their doubt as fuel. Every "you can't" becomes "watch me." Every "that's impossible" becomes "I'll show you possible." Every "you're crazy" becomes crazy enough to succeed. The same voice that says you can't make it is the same voice that said the Wright brothers couldn't fly, that Edison couldn't light up the world, that a kid from a broken home couldn't become president. Doubt is not the opposite of belief. Indifference is. When people doubt you, they're actually paying attention. They see something in you that scares them, something that threatens their comfortable assumptions about what's possible. Take that as a compliment. But the hardest doubter to silence isn't the ones around you. It's the one inside you. That inner voice that whispers, maybe they're right, when things get tough. This is where you need unshakable confidence. Not the fake confidence that crumbles under pressure. Real confidence that comes from knowing who you are and where you're going regardless of what anyone else thinks. Real confidence isn't about feeling certain all the time. It's about moving forward despite uncertainty. It's about acting on your vision, even when you can't see the whole staircase. It's built through small victories, through keeping promises to yourself, through doing what you said you'd do even when you don't feel like it. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you make a deposit in your confidence account. Every time you quit on yourself, you make a withdrawal. The question is, what's your balance? Because here's what happens when you develop stormproof hunger. You stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and start seeing them as stepping stones. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. You realize that every storm you survive makes you stronger for the next one. Every plateau you push through increases your capacity for the next level. Every doubter you prove wrong adds fuel to your fire. Surviving the storms is one thing, but true success requires strategic thinking. Here's what I've learned from studying every comeback story, every underdog victory, every phoenix that rose from ashes. Real hunger doesn't disappear in the storm. It feeds on it. Think about the last time you were truly hungry for food. Not just wanting a snack, but genuinely starving. What happened to your focus? What happened to your creativity? What happened to your determination? You became resourceful. You found solutions. You didn't care about comfort or convenience. You did whatever it took to satisfy that hunger. That's exactly what happens when life hits you hard and your hunger for success is real. The setback doesn't kill your drive. It sharpens it. But most people never get to experience this because they quit at the first sign of resistance. They mistake a detour for a dead end. They see a closed door and assume the building is condemned. Champions are made in the moments when quitting seems reasonable. I want you to think about every comeback story you know. Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball team. Oprah being fired from her first television job. Steve Jobs getting kicked out of Apple, the company he founded. What do these stories have in common? The setback wasn't random. It was necessary. It was the catalyst that turned talent into hunger, hunger into obsession, obsession into greatness. Your setbacks are setups for your comebacks. But here's what separates the champions from the casualties. Champions don't just survive the storm. They study it. They ask better questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of, how do I get back to where I was? They ask, where is this taking me that I never would have gone? Every failure carries instructions. Every rejection contains redirection. Every setback includes a setup for something bigger than what you originally planned. Surviving the storms is one thing, but true success requires strategic thinking. Chapter 6. Strategic Hunger. Here's where most hungry people get it wrong. They think more effort always equals better results. They think working harder is always the answer. They think hunger means grinding yourself into the ground. But smart hunger is more powerful than desperate hunger. Think about a shark. It doesn't chase every fish in the ocean. It identifies the right target, conserves its energy, then strikes with precision and power. That's strategic hunger. Most people scatter their energy like buckshot. They try to do everything, be everywhere, chase every opportunity. They're hungry, but they're hungry for everything. And when you're hungry for everything, you're effective at nothing. Strategic hunger means getting laser focused on what actually moves the needle. It means understanding that not all activities are created equal. Some actions create massive results. Others just create the illusion of progress. This is where the 80-20 rule becomes your best friend. 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. The question is, do you know what your 20% is? Most people spend their days on the 80% that doesn't matter. They answer emails that could wait. They attend meetings that accomplish nothing. They perfect things that are already good enough. They optimize the wrong things. But strategic hunger identifies the few activities that create exponential returns, the few relationships that open doors, the few skills that multiply your value, the few habits that compound into extraordinary results. Here's how you find your 20%. Look at your biggest wins over the past year. What activities led to those wins? What patterns do you see? What were you doing differently when things were working? That's your high-impact zone. That's where your hunger should be focused. But here's the hard part. Focusing on your 20% means saying no to everything else. It means disappointing people. It means missing out on opportunities. It means being comfortable with others thinking you're not doing enough. Because strategic hunger looks lazy to people who confuse motion with progress. It looks like you're not working hard enough. But you're not trying to impress people who don't understand the game. You're trying to win the game. Energy is your most valuable resource. More valuable than time. More valuable than money. Because you can always make more money. You can sometimes buy more time. But you can't manufacture more energy. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. Every commitment is a trade-off. Every opportunity has an opportunity cost. Strategic hunger means being ruthless about protecting your energy. It means eliminating energy drains before they drain you. You know what drains your energy? Toxic people who complain without solutions. Projects that don't align with your goals. Commitments you made when you were trying to please everyone. Activities that feel busy but accomplish nothing. Cut them. Not tomorrow. Today. Your hunger is too valuable to waste on things that don't feed your future. Now let's talk about something that separates temporary success from lasting success. Systems. Goals are important. They give you direction. But systems beat goals every time. A goal is what you want to achieve. A system is what you do repeatedly to achieve it. Goals are about the destination. Systems are about the journey. Here's the problem with goals. They're either achieved or they're not. And once you achieve them, what happens? You need new goals. It's like running on a treadmill. Lots of effort, but you end up in the same place. But systems compound. Systems build momentum. Systems create automatic progress. Systems work whether you feel motivated or not. If your goal is to lose weight, you're only successful when you reach your target weight. But if your system is eating healthy and exercising regularly, you're successful every single day you follow the system. The compound effect doesn't care about your goals. It only responds to your systems. 1% better every day doesn't feel like much. It's barely noticeable. Your friends won't see it. Your family won't comment on it. You might not even feel it. But 1% better every day means you're 37 times better in 1 year. That's not motivational math. That's actual math. The problem is, most people quit before the compounding kicks in. They want instant results in a compound world. They work out for 2 weeks and expect visible abs. They save money for 3 months and expect financial freedom. They practice a skill for 6 months and expect mastery. But compound growth doesn't work that way. It's slow at first, painfully slow. You're putting in effort but seeing minimal returns. This is the valley of despair where most dreams go to die. Strategic hunger understands this pattern. It knows that compound results require compound patience. It's patient with the process, but urgent with the actions. You can't control when the breakthrough happens, but you can control whether you're still there when it does. This requires what I call hunger intelligence. The ability to know when to push harder and when to pull back, when to pivot and when to persist, when you're being strategic and when you're being stubborn. Hunger intelligence recognizes the signs of burnout before burnout happens. It knows the difference between productive discomfort and destructive stress. It understands that sustainable success is built on sustainable systems. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's a failure of strategy. It means you push too hard for too long without proper recovery. It means you confused exhaustion with effectiveness. Strategic hunger includes strategic rest. It includes time to think, to plan, to evaluate. It includes space to let insights emerge and solutions develop. The most productive people aren't the busiest people. They're the people who do the right things at the right time with the right energy. This means saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It means disappointing people in the short term so you can deliver extraordinary results in the long term. It means understanding that your hunger is not just about what you pursue. It's about what you protect, what you preserve, what you prioritize. Strategic hunger doesn't just work harder. It works smarter. It doesn't just want more. It wants better. It doesn't just chase success. It builds success. Because at the end of the day, anyone can be hungry for a day, a week, even a month. But strategic hunger, that lasts a lifetime. As we near the end of our journey, let's talk about the ultimate level of hunger. Chapter 7. Insatiable Success. Most people think success has a finish line. They think there's a moment when you cross it and suddenly you've made it. When you can finally relax, put your feet up, and coast on what you've built. But here's what separates good from great, temporary from permanent, successful from legendary. The greatest achievers never reach that finish line, not because they fail, but because they keep moving it. The moment you think you've arrived, you've already left. This isn't about being miserable or never enjoying your wins. This is about understanding the difference between contentment and satisfaction, between celebrating progress and declaring victory. Contentment means you're grateful for where you are. Satisfaction means you're done trying to get somewhere better. Contentment fuels more success. Satisfaction kills it. You can be content with your current situation while still being hungry for your next level. You can appreciate your progress while still pursuing your potential. You can enjoy the journey while still pushing toward the destination. But the arrival mentality is seductive. It whispers that you've earned the right to take it easy, that you've proven enough, that you can switch from building mode to maintenance mode. The arrival mentality says, I've worked hard. Now I deserve to relax. The insatiable mindset says, I've worked hard. Now I know what I'm capable of when I really apply myself. Think about athletes who win championships, then struggle the following season. Think about businesses that dominate their market, then get disrupted by hungrier competitors. Think about people who achieve their dream job, then lose their edge. What happened? They arrived. They started protecting what they had instead of pursuing what they could become. They switched from offense to defense, from expansion to preservation. But insatiable success doesn't work that way. It knows that the game never ends. The competition never stops. The market keeps evolving. Your potential keeps expanding. This isn't exhausting when you understand what drives it. It's not about greed or ego or never being satisfied with what you have. It's about being driven by something bigger than personal achievement. It's about legacy-driven hunger. Personal success gets you started, but legacy-driven hunger sustains you through decades. Personal success is about what you can get. Legacy-driven hunger is about what you can give. When your hunger shifts from, how can I succeed, to how can I help others succeed, something magical happens. Your capacity expands. Your energy multiplies. Your impact compounds. True success is measured by the impact you leave behind. This doesn't mean you ignore your own goals or sacrifice your own dreams. It means you realize that the highest level of success comes from lifting others as you climb, from creating value that outlasts your lifetime, from building something bigger than yourself. Legacy-driven hunger asks different questions. Instead of how much can I make, it asks how much value can I create. Instead of how famous can I become, it asks how many lives can I impact. Instead of what can I achieve, it asks what can I help others achieve. These questions change everything. They expand your vision beyond personal gain to generational impact. They shift your focus from taking from the world to contributing to it. And here's what happens when you make that shift. You discover that helping others succeed doesn't diminish your own success. It multiplies it. You realize that creating value for others creates more value for yourself than focusing on yourself ever could. But legacy-driven hunger requires something that stops most people: the mastery mindset. Most people want the rewards of mastery without the commitment to mastery. They want the recognition without the repetition. They want the expertise without the experience. They want the destination without the journey. But mastery doesn't work that way. Mastery is falling in love with the process instead of just pursuing the outcome. It's finding joy in the work itself, not just the results the work produces. The mastery mindset understands that expertise isn't the goal. It's the byproduct. It's what happens when you stay hungry for improvement long after others have declared themselves good enough. Think about the difference between someone who practices piano to get good at piano versus someone who practices piano because they love the process of getting better at piano. Who do you think will go further? Who will last longer? Who will create more beautiful music? The one who loves the process doesn't practice to reach a destination. They practice because the practice itself is the destination. The journey isn't something they have to endure to get the reward. The journey is the reward. This is the secret of insatiable success. It's not driven by external rewards that eventually lose their power to motivate. It's driven by internal satisfaction that grows stronger with every challenge conquered, every skill developed, every person helped. When you fall in love with becoming better instead of just being good, you unlock unlimited potential. When you get hungry for growth instead of just achievement, you never run out of fuel, because there's always another level to reach, always another skill to develop, always another person to help, always another problem to solve, always another way to contribute. The mastery mindset sees every challenge as training, every setback as education, every success as preparation for the next level. Every day is an opportunity to get 1% better. It doesn't matter if no one notices your daily improvements. It doesn't matter if the progress feels invisible. It doesn't matter if the recognition doesn't come. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you can't not do it. That's when you know you've reached insatiable success. When your hunger becomes so much a part of who you are that you can't imagine living any other way. When excellence becomes automatic. When impact becomes inevitable. When you realize that success isn't something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you choose every day. Something you earn repeatedly. Something you build continuously. The greatest achievers understand this. They know that the game never ends. The learning never stops. The growth never peaks. The impact never maxes out. They stay hungry not because they have to, but because they want to. Not because they're driven by desperation, but because they're pulled by possibility. Not because they fear failure, but because they love becoming. That's insatiable success. That's legacy-driven hunger. That's the mastery mindset in action. Let's bring everything together with practical steps you can take right now. Conclusion. We've covered a lot of ground together. From understanding what real hunger looks like to building systems that sustain it for a lifetime. From surviving storms to thinking strategically. From personal success to legacy-driven impact. But here's what I want you to remember above everything else. Success isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the hungriest. It's about refusing to settle, refusing to give up, and refusing to let circumstances define your destiny. Intelligence can be limited by genetics. Talent can be limited by natural ability. Resources can be limited by circumstances. But hunger is unlimited. Hunger is a choice. Hunger is completely under your control. Your hunger is your superpower. It's the one thing that can't be taken from you, the one thing that separates you from everyone else who's given up on their dreams. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are thousands of people with more money than you who are miserable. There are people with more connections than you who feel stuck. There are people with more advantages than you who have given up on their potential. But you're still here. You're still listening. You're still hungry. And that changes everything. The world is full of talented people who quit, smart people who settled, gifted people who gave up. But it belongs to the hungry ones, the ones who refuse to accept limitations, the ones who turn obstacles into opportunities, the ones who get back up every time they get knocked down. That's you. That's why you're here. That's why you made it through 8 chapters of truth, challenge, and practical wisdom. Now comes the most important part, what you do next. Because everything we've talked about means nothing if it stays in your head. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. Understanding without implementation is just wasted time. So here's what I need you to do. If this message resonated with you, if it lit a fire in your belly, if it reminded you of what you're capable of, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community of hungry achievers who refuse to accept mediocrity. We're building something special here. A place where dreamers become doers, where potential becomes performance, where hunger becomes results. But more than that, I need you to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone whose fire has dimmed. Someone who's forgotten their own potential. Someone who needs to be reminded that their hunger is their superpower. Maybe it's a friend who's been talking about their dreams, but not acting on them. Maybe it's a family member who's given up on goals they once had. Maybe it's a colleague who's settled for less than they deserve. Share this message. Plant this seed. You never know whose life you might change with a simple share. And here's something I really want from you. Comment below with your biggest takeaway from this entire journey. What hit you the hardest? What challenged you the most? What are you going to do differently starting today? I read every single comment. Every one. Because your insights matter. Your journey matters. Your hunger matters. Maybe you discovered that you've been confusing motion with progress. Maybe you realized you've been feeding your fears instead of your dreams. Maybe you understood for the first time that small, consistent actions create massive results. Whatever it was, share it. Because when you put it in words, it becomes real. When you declare it publicly, it becomes commitment. When you share it with this community, it becomes accountability. And if you're hungry for more content like this, check out our AudioWave Books playlist. We've got hours of transformational content designed to feed your mind and fuel your success. Books that challenge your thinking. Ideas that expand your possibilities. Strategies that accelerate your results. Because this journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. This is just the foundation. Now you build on it. Now you apply it. Now you live it. The next 30 days are crucial. The habits you build, the actions you take, the person you become in the next month will set the trajectory for the next decade of your life. Don't waste this momentum. Don't let this energy fade. Don't go back to who you were before you heard this message. You're different now. You've been reminded of your power. You've been equipped with strategies. You've been challenged to rise. So rise. Get uncomfortable. Take risks. Make mistakes. Learn. Grow. Become. Remember what we talked about in the very beginning. Everyone gets hungry when they're starting. But champions stay hungry when they're full. Champions stay hungry when things are good. Champions stay hungry because they know that hunger is what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. That's your choice now. Ordinary or extraordinary. Comfortable or unstoppable. Satisfied or insatiable. I know which one you're going to choose. Because you wouldn't have made it this far if you were ordinary. You wouldn't have listened to every word if you were satisfied. You wouldn't be here if you weren't ready to become extraordinary. The world belongs to those who show up hungry. Stay hungry, stay focused, and watch your life transform. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Make them proud. Make them grateful. Make them amazed at what you were willing to do when you finally understood your own power. This is your time. This is your moment. This is your hunger calling. Answer it.